Howdy folks, I'm Keith Bowen, and I thought I had some possibly important stuff to say about the police shootings and Black Lives Matter and the whole way people are going about this and how they might be able to improve it substantially and actually save some black lives with a whole lot of less effort. It's not just black lives either. Now, last week we had Alton Sterling over in Baton Rouge. He got shot. He was scuffling with the police. He had a gun, and one of the cops who was on top of him on the ground shot him. Looks questionable, but not completely without reason. The guy had a gun. He was fighting. But couldn't he just smashed him in the face? Where was his taser? Why didn't he pepper spray him? You know, there's a lot of questions there. Seems a little excessive use of force maybe. Then there was this kid, Dylan Noble, over there in Fresno, California. Now, this kid was white, he was unarmed, and he wasn't even fighting the police. He just was refusing orders. And he got shot and killed. So, for those who think that cops deliberately target blacks, not necessarily. What it is the cops are shooting civilians. And there's a number of reasons for this, which can be changed. One of which is the militarization of the police. The police, instead of protect and to serve, are more like to do my job and to neutralize the threat if I'm in danger. You have to realize most people have a difficult time shooting somebody. It's not easy to do, to take another person's life, for the vast majority of people. When a cop is pointing a gun at you, there's a reason for that. He's afraid of you. He believes that you pose a potential deadly threat. Otherwise, why would he pull out the damn gun? You know, a little 12-year-old kid just walking down the street with nothing in his hands. He's not going to sit there and go, "Oh, little Johnny, you know, who are you?" Not going to happen. So he's afraid of you. Now, you may have no idea why he's afraid of you. Okay? In the case of the situation in Minnesota, the guy was pulled over because he matched the description of a suspect in an armed robbery. And in fact, it's possible he was in fact the suspect in the armed robbery. We don't know yet. But if he wasn't, he had no idea that the cop that pulled him over thought he might be an armed felon who could be very dangerous. And therefore, he's dealing with a completely different set of concepts than the police officer is. That can be very dangerous. So, if a cop pulls a gun, assume, A, he's afraid of you, and if you don't know why he's afraid of you, assume he thinks you're a violent felon. There may be a murderer on the loose that just happens to match your description, and you don't know about it because the guy who just gunned down 12 people 3 minutes ago, you haven't heard about yet. Okay? You don't know. All you know is, cop pointing gun at me, I'm in danger. Your attitude needs to change quickly for your survival. There's a couple things we can do to minimize these incidents where people get shot, many times unnecessarily. Part of that is a difficult solution. It involves changing the police. We need to retrain them. We may have to root out some bad officers. This is a long, time-consuming process which we directly have very little control over. On the other hand, there is another solution to this problem which is very simple and which we have total control over, and that is, how do we behave with the police? Okay? Now, a long time ago I was a security guard for a little while, and so I received some of this training, and I was trained how a cop thinks, why he's worried. We have a lot of cops being shot. A lot of them are shot doing traffic stops. How many of the cops you've heard getting shot in the last couple of weeks? They stopped somebody and got shot. Okay? A traffic stop is a very difficult situation for a police officer because he has no idea who he's walking up to. Is that person, you know, Mr. John Q. Public? No problem at all? No threat whatsoever? Or is he Mr. Mass Murderer, who's tweaking out right now and is going to kill the next person that strikes him the wrong way? He doesn't know. he has to play it safe. Okay, he has to assume you might be a deadly threat. And then if anything happens that tweaks those suspicions, he goes right to pulling his gun. Okay? So, I've been involved with a couple of police incidents where I've called cops, where I've had to deal with cops. I've been pulled over numerous times. I've only had one totally jerk cop. Wasn't a violent jerk cop, just a jerk. Okay, complete, utter jerk. I still got away without a ticket or anything. Now, two of the more interesting incidents and informational with our purposes, one was a long time ago. I woke up out of a sound sleep with two guns right here, about 18 inches from my face. Two cops, fingers on the trigger. Now, how the hell did I get in that situation? Simple. I was sleeping in a public place in the back of a Suburban, and I had a gun visible. And I had taken off my glasses and put them next to my gun. Now, for those of you who wear glasses know, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is you reach for your glasses. So here are these two cops. They see me sleeping in a public place. They see this car. They come over, they look. There's a guy sleeping there. And he has a semi-automatic carbine sitting there leaning against a spare tire. And they tap on the window. Tap, tap, tap. No big deal. And I reach for my glasses. Well, as you can imagine, you know, the guns that probably weren't visible a second before were now pointing right at my face through the back window of the Suburban. I wake up, I take a look, and I go, "Yes, officer." I go, "Keep your hands where we can see them. Very slowly get out of the car. Don't make any sudden moves." "Yes, officer." "Okay, put your hands on top of the car, feet back and spread them." "Yes, officer." Now, I wasn't doing anything illegal. Not in the slightest. It's an open carry state. Wasn't doing anything illegal. They didn't know that. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know what was going on. Once we had established that I didn't have any weapons on me except the one in the car, then we had a nice calm discussion, and 20 minutes later they were on their way and I was back in the back of my Suburban. Didn't get hurt. They were scared. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know that was a fully automatic weapon. They didn't know what my intentions were. All they knew was it looked like I was reaching for my gun. Thank you for not pulling the trigger, guys. Don't know your names. Never even got that far. But thank you for your restraint. Another incident happened a month or two ago. I was driving through Phoenix on my way from a prospecting trip, coming home, and I had a .44 Magnum revolver in a hip holster on me at the time. Going through Phoenix, and I didn't realize my registration was expired. And this cop was passing me a couple lanes over. Then he slowed down, he backed up, got in behind me, and turned his lights on. I don't know how he saw my license plate. I'm guessing they got some kind of automatic reader or something that alerted him. I don't know. I think it's high tech. But anyhow, he lit me up. So I carefully pull over to the side of the road, immediately turn on my turn signal. This lets him know, okay, I see you, I'm intending to comply. Traffic may be an issue here. So work your way over carefully. Most traffic will back off when they see the cop lighting you up. But instead of parking in the parking lane, there was a wide graveled area there, so I pulled completely off the pavement. Put the car in park, turned off the engine, put my hands on the steering wheel. As soon as the cop walked up to the passenger side, because the windows were all down, I pointed out my pistol like this, look here. And he goes, "You carrying a gun?" I said, "Yes, sir. .44 Magnum." And he goes, "Okay, thank you." And he goes, "I need your license and registration." I said, "My license is in my pocket, and my registration is in the glove box. I'm going to need to unbuckle my seatbelt to get to them. The seatbelt buckle is literally touching the gun." Now, I would presume at that point he had his hand on his gun and had it unsnapped. I have no idea, okay? But I think that would have been a reasonable precaution. I carefully and slowly unsnap my seatbelt, pull it out of the way, reach over there. And again, I'm moving very slowly so he has plenty of time to watch what I'm doing. That's part of the key. He's not afraid because I'm moving slow enough. He figured he's fast enough to react. Therefore, he doesn't have to be afraid. Got the license and registration, handed it to him. He gave me a verbal warning. It was the first time I've ever gotten a verbal warning on, my license being out of date. Because, it's just all you got to do is get it up to date. No big deal. So anyhow, it worked out very well. Now, as the guy in Fresno shows, it doesn't matter if you're white or black. If you do the wrong things, you can wind up dead. So this is the part we control. Okay? Are there bad cops? Absolutely. Are there annoying cops? Absolutely. Are there times when the people are rather annoying to the cops? Absolutely. So let's try and tone it down a little bit. If a cop asks you to do something that you honestly and sincerely believe is not legitimate, don't worry about it. Okay? Tell them, I don't think you have the right to do blah, 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 blah. I will involuntarily comply for safety reasons. Okay? If the cop says, if you say, I don't think you have the right to do that, he says, yes, I do. You say, I disagree, but I will comply for safety reasons. Okay? Don't start a fight. Don't fight the guy with a gun, a badge, and a bunch of buddies at the end of the radio. You're not going to win. If, on the other hand, you do have a disagreement and the cop does do something wrong, you're perfectly in the clear now. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't have a case of offsetting penalties. I have a friend of mine whose son was arrested for a warrant that didn't exist. They had taken care of it. Cop didn't know that. Knew the kid personally. Says, I know there's a warrant out for your arrest. As he's arrested, they're saying, no, they're not. We took care of it. He didn't bother checking. It's called false arrest. And when they went to their lawyer the next day, the lawyer said, yeah, I can get you $50,000 for this. No problem. If your son hadn't spat on the cop, which is a felony. So, do you want to go for offsetting penalties or do you want to let the whole thing slide? Cops are willing to let it slide. I suggest you let it slide. They lost $50,000. Okay? If a cop is breaking the law, it's worth money. Okay? You can either make them look really bad in the press and stuff and cause them all kinds of grief, get your vengeance that way, or you can make money, or both. You might have their job, you might have their freedom, you might have $1 million in the bank, or a bullet in the head. Which do you prefer? Okay? So, whenever you're dealing with the cops, there is a legal principle called the presumption of regularity, which means you have to assume that what the cop is doing is legal until proven otherwise. So if he asks you to do this or do that, you don't know why. Again, you may be an exact match with the information he is of a suspect in a major crime that happened a block away, driving the same kind of car. You don't know. Just follow instructions. If you have the time, like in a traffic stop or whatever, start a recording device if you have one. This way, whatever he does, you can prove. Cop cams are nice too, the ones they carry. If you do your part right, that camera helps you in court. If you do it wrong, it's going to hurt you. Assume you're being recorded at all times and behave accordingly. So, start the recording device. If you're being pulled over, pull to the nearest safest area in a nice controlled manner. Okay? Roll your windows down. If the weather permits, if it's raining like hell, you may just roll it down a little bit or whatever, but assuming it's reasonable weather, roll your windows down, put the car in park, and turn it off. This way the cop knows you can't take off. One less thing for him to worry about. Leave your seatbelt on, your door closed. Don't get out of the car. This way the cop knows you're immobilized. You can't just jump out and attack him or jump out and point a gun at him or something like that. He knows you're kind of stuck where you're at, and that makes him happy. That makes him calm. Okay? Put your hands on the steering wheel where he can see them. Passenger, put it on the dashboard. Not only is it where he can see it, but he's going, wow, these people know the routine. They're being courteous to me. He will probably be more courteous to you. If it's at night, turn on the dome light so he can see what's going on. Again, your job is to allay his fears so that he's not scared. Because he's not scared, he's not going to be pulling a gun, he's not going to be wired up, he's not going to be yelling at you. And then obey instructions. You know, I know a guy that went to jail because he was a passenger in a car where the guy was driving drunk, and the cop says, "Where's your ID?" And he's like, "You don't have the right to get my ID." Yeah, well, you wound up in jail. Okay? Just say, "Here's my ID." You know? And if the cops have done something wrong, in your opinion, go to your lawyer in the morning and try and get redress that way. I mean, even if you don't get anything out of it, if a cop gets enough things in his jacket, they'll start looking at him. If he really screws up somewhere down the line, they're going to look at that pattern and practice and say, wow, this looks like a bad cop. Okay? Do what you can to redress whatever it is. If you got a good video, you can post it on the internet. Okay? You might want to talk to your lawyer first. But anyhow, that's my suggestion. We can peacefully protest, we can go to city council meetings, we can pressure our local politicians to change the way the police interact with people, and in a positive way. Basically, don't necessarily escalate force so damn rapidly. But if the cops aren't interacting with people, they're also not stopping crime, and that's going to get people hurt and killed also. So we need to train them how to do their job better. But in the meantime, and this is something we can all do right now, it'll help calm down the situation overall, and it'll keep us personally safe. There's a video out there called How Not to Get Your Ass Beat by the Police by Chris Rock. Watch it. It's total common sense. If people take that to heart, it'll save more black lives than everything Black Lives Matter's ever done. But it also applies to white people, and brown people, and yellow people, and green people if they're out there. Nowadays with the hair colors, they're out there. Okay? Just don't give the cops crap. And here's another thing you may not realize. Any fight with a police officer is a fight over a gun, because he's got one. You may not think of that. He definitely thinks about that. He knows if he loses the fight, he's lost control of his gun. He's lost control over his life. To you, you might be fighting to get away. He might be fighting to survive. That's a big difference. Obviously, all this advice does no good whatsoever if you're a wanted felon trying to get away from the police. So try and avoid doing things which will cause you to become desperate. Hey, if it's just a fine or whatever, you're going to do a night in jail, just do it. Avoid things like driving drunk, picking up warrants, stuff like that, committing felonies. It'll de-stress your life a lot. But for the rest of us, the people who are truly innocent, the people that Black Lives Matter talks about, innocent black man gunned down by cops. Well, if he's truly innocent, then he had no reason to fight, no reason to start an altercation, which gave the cops the excuse they wanted, or maybe they didn't want, but the excuse they needed to pull a trigger. Okay? That's what's so important. Don't give them a reason to pull the trigger. Preferably don't even give them a reason to pull the gun. And you're not going to get shot. Your friends are not going to get shot. Your family is not going to have to bury you. And in the bad situations, you may wind up with a lot of money in your pocket. So that's my advice. Treat the cops with respect, even if you don't think they deserve it. Follow instructions, even when you don't think they're legitimate. That will keep you alive. That will allow you to get vengeance. Dead people don't get vengeance. So, take care. Think about what you do. Think about the consequences to yourself, to other people, and then behave in the way you think is truly right. And Martin Luther King was for nonviolent protest because against a moral enemy, nonviolence works very well. So, peaceful protest, keep it within the political system, use a lawyer when appropriate, and don't start a fight with a cop. Thank you, and good luck.